So now that we know what Cypress is and why we might want to use it, it's time to get started with it and write some first tests and add it to our first project. For that, you can visit cypress.io, and on that website you find some getting started instructions. But in the end, it's just one simple command that you need to execute in your project, followed by another command. So here I am in a brand new project, and you find that project attached to this lecture. It's a React.js project, but you don't need to know or understand React.js for this course. It's just a demo, and we're not going to write any React.js code here. Just download the attached project, and once you did so, open it in your favorite editor. Here I'm using Visual Studio Code. And once you're there, you need to install some dependencies. Here I'm doing this with the built-in terminal that's built into Visual Studio Code so that I can run a command directly in that project folder. And the command we have to run is npm install to install our extra third-party dependencies of that project. Once that's done, we're ready to run this project and also then install Cypress. Now, if we quickly run this project, which you can do with npm run dev, you can visit it on this site here on your local system. You should see this website in your browser. As a side note, here I zoomed in quite a bit to make this a bit easier to see. That's why it might not be that big, that zoomed in by default on your system. So that's the basic starting project I created for you. And it's this starting project which we're going to use to install Cypress and write our first test. Of course, throughout this course, we'll see more demo project and also more advanced scenarios. So in order to install Cypress, we head back to this terminal where we ran this development server before. And there we want to execute this npm install Cypress command, which we also find on the official Cypress website. Now this installs this Cypress tool into this project. And once this was installed, once this Cypress dependency was added, we can run npx, not npm, but npx cypress open. And this command will now use that dependency which we just installed and open the Cypress application on this system. After running npx cypress open, you should get a window that looks something like this. And what you're seeing here is the Cypress application, a tool created by the Cypress developers, which we can use to manage and run our tests thereafter. Now, when we're starting this tool, we have to decide whether we're going to write and run some end-to-end tests or component tests, though you can also have both types of tests in the same project. Now, this course is about end-to-end testing, so that's what we're going to pick. And as you see, it's currently not configured, since this is the first time I'm running this command in this new project. So when we click this, we now get this initial configuration step, automatically managed by Cypress. And here in the end, Cypress in the end just tells us which extra files have been added to this project. For example, a cypress.config.js file, which could be used for configuring the testing behavior of Cypress in this project. Here we just confirm this by clicking continue. And then we can choose in which browser we want to run our tests. Because Cypress actually supports different browsers. If you have Firefox installed, you should see Firefox as an option here as well. But I'll use Chrome here throughout this entire course. And therefore now if you click Start E2E Testing here, a new browser window should open with that Cypress application running inside of it. This is still an extra application provided by the Cypress team, which we will use to then run and evaluate our tests. Now, since this is the first time this is starting and we haven't written any tests yet, it asks us whether it should create some example tests, which we could use to learn Cypress and see some, well, examples in action, or if we want to create one single, basically empty testing file, which we can then use to write our own tests. Now, seeing these examples can be very useful for exploring some Cypress commands and learning Cypress. But since you have this course for learning it already, we will actually use this empty spec file here, this empty file, and write a test from scratch. We can then give this a name, and here I'll just name it first test. You should keep the .ci.js extension, and you should also keep the folder, which it's suggesting here. I just changed the file name, or the part in front of the extension, to first-test. With that, we can create this spec file with this dummy content, and click OK, run the spec. And with that, what Cypress does thereafter is it executes this testing file. And from this point on, when this application is running, as you add new testing files, Cypress will run them for you, you can rerun them, and when you reopen this application after you closed it, and you can close it like any other regular browser window, so after you closed it, if you rerun it, Cypress will run all the testing files it finds in your project again. And keep in mind, you can always reopen it by rerunning this npx cypress open command. So that's how we install and run this Cypress tool. Of course, we're going to take a closer look at this tool and what we can do in there throughout this course. But with that out of the way and this up and running, let's now write some Cypress testing code.